Carla Knits podcast. This is a podcast about knitting, crocheting, and always all of the yarny goodness that I love. Today is Thursday, February 29th, so the very last day of February. I hope this finds all of you doing well. I'm really excited to be back today to share what I've been up to the last couple of weeks. I've got several finished objects to show. I've got a couple works in progress, and then some upcoming knitting and crocheting plans to talk about. So thank you for being here. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new, thank you so much for stopping by. If you'd like to follow me other places, I am cbcraftygirl on Instagram and Ravelry. And patterns that I talk about and places you can find me will be linked in the show notes down below. So going into finished objects, which I have one that I am wearing. So my first finished object is the Driftlines cowl by Shannon Cook. So technically this, it goes like this, but I wasn't sure if I really liked that flop. So I kind of tucked it like this, but I'm going to pull it out so you can kind of see the beautiful slip stitch design on there. So this is a cowl. I'll just take this off a minute. So this is a cowl completely in the round. You do start knitting it flat and then join it at some point. This is one of the patterns on my Make 9 New Projects board for this year. I guess my little cast on isn't quite the tidiest there, but I really do love how this project turned out. I just really loved those slipped stitches. I'm gonna put it back on. And let's talk a little bit further about it. So the pattern calls for a worsted weight. Well, what do you guys think? Up, flopped to the side like that, and that's kind of what the model in the pattern photo shows. Or I kind of like just tucking it a little bit like this, because I would wear this more as an accessory than for warmth, although it is nice. It is very nice and warm, and it could be very nice and warm. But let's talk some details. So Driftlines cowl by Shannon Cook. It's a worsted weight pattern. The yarn that I used is technically categorized as DK weight, but I thought it was a pretty plump DK weight. It was Harrisville Designs Daylights in the bloodshot colorway. So it's a very much a neutral color, but if you look closely, there are little threads of pink going through it. So bloodshot eyes. So very, very subtle, but I thought this was a nice neutral and could go, with different things. The thing I will say about this pattern, I had two skeins of the Harrisville Designs yarn, and they both had 250 yards on them. The pattern itself calls for 466 to 540 yards. So I thought, that's great. That's, I have 500 yards. That's perfect. Well, it turns out I used the first skein and only had maybe 7 rows to go. So I did have to get into that second skein, but I did the math, and I only used, and I did not modify the pattern. I did not shorten it at all. I used 287.5 yards. So that's a pretty big discrepancy from even the lowest number that was suggested, 466. So I really was kind of surprised by that. I was hoping, that this would eat up those two skeins, but I have plenty of yarn left on the second skein for, a hat. That's going to be great. So I can do something like that. But I had intended, those two skeins would go for this project. And I did a little digging to see, you know, if I could find anything for such, you know, such a big discrepancy. And just in like project notes or in comments, the pattern designer did write that she added in a buffer because people's tension differs with slip stitches. So, you know, there are a lot of slip stitches in here. But still, that seems like such a big discrepancy to me. 287.5 yards with the lowest being 466 called for. So I'm not sure. Like I said, I didn't modify it. I noticed some people in their patterns, you know, they said they thought it turned out shorter than expected. I mean, the model in the photo, it shows it really going all the way down to her waist. I did not measure it, but the length is supposed to be 20 inches. But I like this. I like what this is. It feels, you know, big enough, you know, to me. I like the size of it. The yarn softened up a lot. It is a very squishy yarn. I had said before it was a Cormo wool. I gotta look back. I didn't write this down again now. Oh, let's see. Oh goodness, I'm terrible. I believe it's a Cormo wool, which I had not worked with before. And so it is a squishy yarn, but being a natural yarn, it's not as soft as like a you know, a superwash merino wool, anything like that. So I did find it not as soft to work with, and maybe a little bit, just a little bit harder working through the pattern. Yeah, I can't give the pattern away just because it's a paid for pattern, but just some of the stitches that you have to execute on it, I thought, you know, it was a little rough on the hands. Well, I can say there's make ones in there, and that was hard. That was hard on the hands. So, but overall, I would make this again. I feel like I'm all over the place, you guys. I'm sorry. I should title this episode something like, you know, unfortunate knitting mistakes, and maybe I will. But I got to the point, I was working through, you know, the flat part and, you know, gung-ho, getting through the different repeats, and I go, and I'm thinking I'm ready for joining in the round, and I count, and I have something like 20 more stitches or 24 more stitches on. And I'm just like, how in the world, you know, I follow all of this carefully. Well, there's one section that you have to repeat 3 times, and then you go back and repeat part of it again. And instead of just repeating part of the 12 rows, I did all 12 rows, and I only was supposed to do 4 on that certain repeat. So last Saturday, I had to unknit 8 rows. And so this was at almost, well, a very long portion of the cowl, still in the flat. So it was approximately 150 or a few more per row. So 8 rows of unknitting is approximately 1,200 stitches, give or take. So it took me about 2.5 hours to unknit the rows that I shouldn't have done and get back on track. So that was really frustrating. Yeah, I was very frustrated. Something else went on that Saturday that made me a little crazy too. I can't remember what, but there were like 2 things that happened, like, oh, it's a bad day. So that's the first of my knitting mishaps to happen for this week. But I do have a finished Driftline cowls. It is on my Make9 board. I am happy to have this. And I think I did say, but the yarn did soften up. And the yarn was not the most pleasant smelling, just in, you know, the skein, or even when I caked it up. I do like the sheep, or the smell of sheep, or the smell of woolly wool, but this one just did not smell as good. But I soaked this for about 20 to 25 minutes in a wool wash, soak the yuzu scent, and now it smells absolutely wonderful. So and has softened up. So very, very happy with this. All right, I think I've talked enough about this. On to some more finished objects. So I should have prepared a little better. You can probably tell what I'm going to put on. So I have actually 2 pairs of finished socks. So the first is a plain vanilla sock, and it is a pair of socks for Jeff for Christmas. And I just think the yarn is so fun. That orange in there and that blue is just so vibrant. I absolutely love that. So here, here is my knitting mistake number 2. Just dumb. Okay, so the yarn, let's see if you can tell what I did. Here's the socks. Here's the socks. And the yarn went over my head. It's called Lang Yarns Twin Socks. Twin socks. Looking at the picture, do you see? There's 2 identical socks on there. That just went completely over my head, and I did not even think about that till I, had the last little bit of yarn, and I went to put it back in the tag, and I saw that. It's like the light bulb went on. Twin socks. So Jeff's socks are certainly not identical. I actually can't believe I did that. I much more enjoy knitting socks that I don't have to try and be so matchy on. But obviously I didn't even try on this at all. I'm just like, I'm just going with it. I'm just knitting. So, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't bother me. If the yarn wasn't marked that way, it totally wouldn't bother me. I think these are just a funky, fun pair of socks. But then when I saw that label again and the name of the yarn line, I was just like, oh my goodness, what did you do? So I think that's 2 pretty silly things I did this over the last couple of weeks, was knit a non-matching pair of socks from a twin skein, and also knitting too many rows and having to unknit 8 rows of knitting. So, but I'm very excited to have, I believe, my first Christmas gift done for 2024. So that feels really good. Yes. Okay. I think we're going to probably be looking up from here. So I have another pair of socks that I finished. This is a DK weight pair of socks. The pattern is by the kitchen. Oops, I'm getting tangled with some things. The pattern is by the Kitchen Sink Shop, and it is Sunshine on My Feet socks. And here they are. So I believe I had part of one done the last time I showed you, and these were just really, really enjoyable to work on. The pattern is very, very simple and memorizable, but it really makes a fun texture on the sock. So I really, really like these. They are nice and squishy, being a DK weight sock. The yarn that I used was a gift from Teresa, so thank you again, Teresa. And it is by Whimsy Stitches Yarn Co. in the golden yellow colorway. And this is such a nice tonal yarn. I absolutely love it. So really excited to have this done. This finished socks, these were on my sock board for Make 9 this year. So really excited to have checked another project off. And they were very, very fun to knit. So I would highly recommend that pattern. All right, then if you've been here even just a little while for this year, I am trying to work through some of the scraps and some of my cotton in my cotton drawer. I have a full drawer. I'm looking over at my dresser. I have a full dresser drawer of cotton, and it's kind of seeped into the drawer above it. But those are full skeins in the drawer above, but I'm trying to work through the scraps. And so I am following along with the Make Along hosted by the, let's see, Back Porch Fiber Company. She is hosting a Dishcloth Mel over on Instagram. And so I have knit a couple dishcloths this month. So last month I put out, 7 dishcloths, but this month not nearly as much, but I have 2 of the same. So this is the Scrap Buster Dishcloth by Mindy Acosta. The needle it called for was a US 9, which I did use, but it's this really fun lacy texture, and it's really nice and squishy. So I had this yarn, again, it's probably a Lily Sugar and Cream or Peaches and Cream. I had this on a cone, which I had used in the past to make like a beach bag for my sister. So I had a cone. So I got 2 remaining dishcloths out of that. And then I'll be sharing in Works in Progress another dishcloth using up that scrap or that kind of yarn. So excited to have 2 more dishcloths made. So I will have a really good collection, I hope, by the end of the year. My last finished object, I really didn't intend to have as a finished object today. It was something that I was really excited to work on and to start, but I thought it was only going to be a start, and then I just kept going. So this is my scrap yarn basket. Let's see if I can show you. Well, I'll show you this way. Here's the bottom. This is probably my favorite part, is how the yarns worked on the bottom. So scrap yarn basket. This is a crochet project by Cynthia Gonzalez. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. It is one of the projects on my Make9 new projects board. I used 4 strands of DK weight yarn held together. And the pattern calls for a size M or N crochet hook. I went down to a J hook because I wanted it to be sturdier, so that not the edges flopping in so much. So, I mean, they do flop in, but if it was full of stuff, it would be fine. This is a very sturdy basket. And this was really fun. I will say it is very, very hard on the hands. Very, very hard. So that's why I thought I wasn't going to finish it, because I thought I could really only work on it in little increments at a time. But those little increments just kept building. So I think I started on the 19th of February and I finished it yesterday. Yes. So let me think what I want to say. So crochet project. So when you are holding, those strands of yarn together and you're crocheting at such a tight gauge, that's why it's harder. It's harder to maneuver the hook in and to make sure you're grabbing all the 4 strands of yarn. So that does make it challenging. You can see the bottom of the basket is circular. But if I followed the pattern, exactly how it was written with no modifications, which I did do at first, I made the base of the basket. It was perfectly hexagonal, like a hexagon in shape. And that is just due to the nature of crocheting and how increases work. circularly. It definitely turned out more like a hexagon. And I thought, well, that's okay, but I really want it to be a circle. So I did find, you know, I did some digging. It was like, you know, I wanted how to crochet or how to single crochet a circle or a circle shape. And so I did come across, it's Rafa Musa Designs, and she had, maybe it was a little blog post, how to single crochet the perfect circle. And so she specifies exactly how to do the stitching in such a way that you're alternating where your increases are going. And so then you don't get necessarily that wedge shape of increases, which will make sense if you have increased in your crochet before. So this was a much, much better circle. I am so, so happy with that. It used, I did not weigh it. I should have weighed it on my kitchen scale, but it used, you know, it uses up yarn. It definitely uses up yarn, but I just have too much in my scrap drawer, so I could make many more baskets, which I really love how it turned out, but I don't think, I probably won't be crocheting a basket anytime soon, just because it is so hard on the hands. I don't know, but I really love the way it looked. And I think there's so many fun color combinations that you can use. You see a lot of pink in here, which, you know, that's me. I love my pinks. So I'm not sure what I'm going to use it for. I mean, it would make a good like little project bag even, or putting some yarn in, putting a couple projects in the living room. Yeah, there's lots of uses for baskets, but really excited to have that done. So it was fun pairing yarns together. Yeah, so I'm really excited to have that crochet basket done. So that is it for my finished objects for today. So we'll move in. Oh, I take that back. I do have one more finished object, but it is not crocheting, it is not knitting, but it is yarn related in a way. So I will show you. I bought this several years ago, and I hope I can show this. I am not a floss tuber by any means, and that's not going to happen on this channel, I don't think ever. But I finished this cross stitch, and I hope I'm holding it enough so you can see it. So home is where the wool is. So this has taken me probably 2 or 3 years to finish, just because I, you know, didn't really pick it up too often. But I really like how it turned out. I have a hoop that I will put it in, and then a little stand. So I hope to display that somewhere in here. I think that would be really nice. I used to cross stitch a long time ago. That was definitely another one of my loves in the craft world. Yeah, I did it a lot, but it's much harder on the eyes now, and I have to wear my really goofy glasses, and I have glasses with light on them, but I have to put them over my regular glasses to be able to still see. Yeah, so I have 2 pairs of glasses on when I am stitching. So when my kids have seen me, or when Jeff sees me, you know, of course they giggle, they laugh, which it is funny looking that way, but it makes me able to do some cross stitching. So very excited to have this done. I do have one other cross stitch project that I'm working on that maybe I will share sometime. But happy to have a cross stitch project done. Now into those works in progress. Because I had so many finishes, I just have a couple works in progress. So the first one I will share is another dishcloth. So you see I have used up the remainder of that cone and switched to a new color. And now I am back to crocheting. So this is the, let's see, Corner to Corner Moss Stitch Dishcloth by Agate Rotman. And again, this will be another one for the Back Porch Fiber Company Dishcloth Mel. I really love this pattern. I love this pattern. So I think this month I probably will just be crocheting them up. This is just really enjoyable to do. And I actually really love how these two go together. So in this natural color yarn, there are flecks of, you know, a pale blue, purple, and a pink. And I think that just looks so fun with that. Yeah, so really excited. You know, I picked the crochet up last night and just started stitching before bed. So it was really enjoyable to do. So yeah, those crochet dishcloths go really fast. And I just love that stitch pattern. And then two last works in progress. I have a couple of socks on the needle. So when I finish, you know, just a plain vanilla sock for Jeff, I decided that I'm gonna, you know, pull something off my shelf. And so I pulled one of my oldest skeins of yarn, fingering weight yarn, off my shelf. So this is a yarn that I was so enamored with when I first saw it. This is by Sweet Georgia Yarns in the tapestry color. And best I can figure is that I got this in probably 2015 or 2016. I happened to come across an ad for it on Facebook, and then it took me to a website, and then I just absolutely loved it. You can tell probably why I liked it, the kind of mulberry pinks in there. So it is pretty, but I've got lots of pretty yarn, so I don't know if I would definitely have chosen it or choose it again, but it is knitting up really fun. I think I like less heavily variegated yarns, so this is pretty heavily variegated in there, so I imagine it's going to have some funky pooling around the heels. But I do have a start to it. I think I said, did I say this yarn is definitely more autumnal in feeling, but I thought it was time to use this yarn. Don't get me wrong, it is beautiful yarn. Just I'm not quite as smitten with the variegated yarn as I was back then, but it's a really nice base. It is an 80-20 blend, but really soft blend to work with. Very nice yarn to knit with. So this is just going to be my, you know, easy knitting when I need it. I had piano students today, and there was 1/2 hour where I didn't have a student, and so I had brought my knitting along, so that was really nice to finish off the cuff and, you know, get started with the leg. So that'll be that, and maybe my library knitting, my car knitting. Yeah, so that is just a vanilla sock on the go, and excited to be using a yarn that has been in my stash for way too long. My final work in progress is another sock, and this is one of the sock patterns on my sock board for 2024. So you can see I have made quite a bit of progress, and it's a fluffy floofy sock. Hopefully you can see the fuzzy halo on this sock. This is the Indulgence Socks. Oh, and who is it by? I don't remember. It will be in the show notes, but you hold fingering and like a strand of mohair together, but I decided rather than mohair, I was going to hold a strand of Suri together. So for my main skein is Yarn Cafe Creations in the Dig Dug colorway, and my soft Suri floof is from Suburban Stitcher in the Rosewood colorway. So these two together is looking like this. So I think this is a free pattern. Going by the measurements, you know, your circumference, I should have knit, I think, the second from the largest size, which would have been 56 stitches. So I thought, okay, but that seems kind of big. And so I did 56 stitches, and I did maybe 6 rounds of ribbing, and you know, I was stretching it way out. I thought, oh, that is going to be just too crazy big. It is knit on a 2.75. Which I thought, okay, maybe, because typically DK weight socks I knit on a size 3. I thought, okay, that's 48 stitches, so maybe. But I tried the 56, and I mean, it was so stretchy. So I decided to go down to the 48, which I did. Now, what I wish I had done was kept the 48 stitches, which that's what this is, and gone back up to the size 3 needle, because it's slightly snug in this area. So it doesn't fit, well, it fits like a proper sock. But I think I probably would have liked this more as a slipper. So there probably should have been a little bit more ease. So there's more negative ease in this. So it does fit like a proper sock should. But if I were to make this pattern again, I would either do one of two things. I probably would do the middle size, which would have been 52 stitches on the 2.75, or I would do just the typical DK weight 48 stitches on a US 3. But I absolutely love the fabric it's creating. It is so decadently soft. It is just so soft. I was thinking this would work really nice for a pair of mittens. It would be so nice and warm and toasty. So this is my first time using Suri. I think I do like it better than mohair. Just for the softness factor, I'm really enjoying it. So I do have another pair of socks. This is from my Make9 board. I do have another pair of socks on that Make9 board that uses, you know, combining fingering weight, and I have a Suri. So I'll look forward to doing that pair at some point this year too. Yeah, this is really nice. So have you tried combining fingering weight and Suri and making socks? Those are some pretty luxurious socks, but it's a really good treat yourself kind of project. So that is what I have been working on over the past 2 weeks. Let's see. So my big thing this year is working on my Make9 boards, working from stash. And I've told you that I'm, you know, participating in, well, on Instagram using the hashtag MakeN2024 Mel, which is hosted by Amy of the Noble Character Crafts. And when I watched her last podcast, she called my name for a prize. So that was so surprising and so neat. I was really excited. She showed the yarn first, and I was kind of like, oh, that is so beautiful. And then she said, you know, I was the winner. So I was over the moon excited. So here it is, and you can see why I like this a lot. Look at those pinks in there. Oh, that is just beautiful. And she included a sweet little butterfly stitch marker with a little pretty bead there. This is by AG2 Dyed Yarns. It's an MCN fingering, which means merino cashmere nylon. So again, a very luxurious yarn. And the colorway is It's Getting Hot in Here. But isn't that just so beautiful? I absolutely love it. So Amy, if you happen to be watching, thank you so very much. My question to you guys, if you have a favorite one skein project please share that in the comments down below. My first thought was to do a changing staircases shawl. I have made 2 of them. I really enjoy that pattern. I gifted one and I have one for myself, and it's a really good use of 1 skein of yarn, and you get a decent length little shawlette to wrap around your neck. But I would love to hear, I don't think I want to do socks with this, so I would like to do something else. So if you have a favorite 1 skein project of fingering weight yarn, please share that in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you like to make with a special skein of yarn. All right, so some tentative knitting plans for the upcoming month of March. So tomorrow is March. Excuse me. So some of you may know that March is National Crochet Month. And so with that crochet basket I made, I kind of thought I would be making the majority of that basket in the month of March. I really just planned on getting a little start on it, but got too gung-ho and finished that. But I would like to do a crochet project in the month of March. So on my Make 9 New Projects board, I have the Rustic Cable Stitch Table Runner by See Love Share on Etsy, and I already have the yarn for it. So I think I might like to try this new pattern out for crochet. And then also I talked about, you know, the scrappy dishcloths and the corner to corner moss stitch crochet dishcloth. I would like to, you know, crochet a bunch of those using different scraps in my yarn drawer. I think that would be really fun, really easy. I will, and very enjoyable. That pattern is very enjoyable. I will keep going on these socks for sure. The other one, this has no real deadline, so it will just get worked on occasionally, and that's fine. It's just so I have a plain vanilla sock on the go, and this truly is a vanilla sock. There's nothing hard or patterny about that. It was just I mainly wanted to try a sock using, you know, fingering weight and floofy, either mohair or Suri. So that's with that sock. But I do have some things I would like to make, and it's actually more socks. Darcy of Chit Chat Knits is hosting a Knit Lit Mal, so knitting literature make along. And so the idea is to make a project and pair it with a children's book. So kind of your project might reflect something in the book, and then you are to gift a book to a charity of your choice. So it could be to a church, it could be to a hospital, it could be to a library, it could be to a the free libraries that are, you know, around people's towns. And she's got some ideas. She is hosting this, it looks like on Instagram, and she has it in her Ravelry group. But I loved this idea. I love children's books. And while I was thinking, I was like, oh, I have 2 skeins of yarn that are children booked theme. So I'm like, this is the perfect time to work on these. So I wonder if any of you can guess what this is based on the colors. What children's book would that be? Well, I'll tell you, it's Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. Do you see it now? Yeah, those colors are great. So this is a self-striping yarn by Night Owl Fibers. This has been in my stash for maybe 3 years. So that will be really fun, and it's really bright and fun. So good for, you know, as we're going into spring and everything. Definitely a bright, cheerful, self-striping yarn that will be. And then I also have this set by Southern Storytime, and this is the Very Hungry Caterpillar yarn, And it even comes with a little progress keeper of the Very Hungry Caterpillar book. So I saw a pattern on Ravelry where you knit the pair of socks, the toe is red, and then you duplicate stitch eyes on the toes, which looks really, really cute. So I might do that. I think that would be really, really fun. And I love the greens in this yarn. And both of these books, The Very Hungry Caterpillar and Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, were books that I read and were very well loved by all three of my children. So, you know, it makes me think of my children. You know, it makes me think of my love for books and reading. And I just think this would be really fun. So I will purchase the book, and I probably will gift those to some of the free libraries, you know, one of the free libraries around our town. I think that would be really fun. So I think it goes, I know it starts tomorrow on March 1st. I think it goes through mid-May, her knit along. So if you would love to join in on that, you know, please be sure to check out Darcy's Instagram account, or details can be found in her Ravelry group. So those are some upcoming plans for March. I also really have been thinking about my Cozy Memories blanket. That's the square, you know, the mitered square blanket, and I really want to get back to that. So I'm thinking maybe March will also be March mitered square month. So I think I will pick up that blanket in March and try to put some squares into that. So those are the plans. I hope to be back next week with a short video with a recap of February's makes and stash, how I did using stash, and if there is stash enhancement. Well, you do know there's at least one stash enhancement, but I will be back with that video next week, just highlighting how I did in the month of February. So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel to keep following along how I'm using stash this year, how I'm doing with my Make 9 boards. I would love to hear what you are working on. So if you'd like to share that in the comments, I would love to hear from you. So until the next time I see you, take care. Bye-bye.